What if the reason your business is struggling has nothing to do with your work ethic or your marketing, but everything to do with the offer you are making to the market? Alex Hormozi built and sold multiple companies worth tens of millions of dollars, and he says the single variable that changed everything for him was not hustle or talent. It was the structure of his offer. The book is called $100 Million Offers, and it may be the most financially dangerous book a competitor could ever watch you read. Alex Hormozi is not a theorist. He is an operator who's deployed these frameworks across gyms, software companies, and consulting businesses, generating hundreds of millions in revenue. He wrote this book as a direct transfer of the playbook he wishes someone had handed him when he was broke and on the verge of losing everything. Every page has been stress-tested against real money, real customers, and real consequences. By the time this breakdown is finished, you will understand exactly why most businesses compete on price and lose, how to construct an offer so compelling that the customer feels almost irrational saying no, and what separates entrepreneurs who build wealth from those who build exhaustion. Subscribe to the Book Vault right now, hit the like button, and stay until the end, because what follows is the kind of private briefing most people never get access to. The Strategic Breakdown, Why Most Businesses Stay Broke. Hormozi opens the book by identifying a pattern he calls the commodity trap. And we begin here because understanding this trap is the difference between building a business and building a hamster wheel. The commodity trap is what happens when your offer looks identical to every competitor. When prospects cannot differentiate you from the next option, the only lever left is price. Competing on price is a race to the bottom. The most capitalized player always wins. Here is the painful truth Hormozi forces the reader to confront early. If someone can find what you offer somewhere else for less money, you do not have a business. You have a job with extra steps. The market does not reward effort. It rewards uniqueness, perceived value, and the elimination of risk. Hormozi watched this pattern destroy hundreds of entrepreneurs who were talented, hardworking, and completely invisible to their market because their offer gave the customer no compelling reason to choose them specifically. The solution Hormozi proposes is not better marketing. That is what most people try first. They spend more on ads, post more on social media, hire a branding agency. The numbers still do not move. You cannot market your way out of a weak offer. The offer is the foundation. Everything else, ads, funnels, sales scripts, are amplifiers. Amplifying a weak signal just produces louder noise. What comes next is where Hormozi introduces the framework that changes the entire game. Choosing the right market before building a grand slam offer. Hormozi argues you must first answer a question most entrepreneurs skip entirely, and he calls this market selection. The idea is disarmingly simple. Not all markets are created equal. You can have the greatest offer ever constructed, and if you deploy it in a dying, saturated, or price-sensitive market, you will still struggle. Hormozi identifies three characteristics of a market worth entering. It must be in pain, have purchasing power, and be easy to target. Miss anyone and you fight uphill indefinitely. Hormozi uses an analogy worth sitting with. He says selling a premium product in the wrong market is like selling ice to someone in Antarctica. They do not want it and will never pay for it. But sell that same product to someone crawling through a desert and suddenly you are not selling a commodity. You are selling survival. The market context transforms the perception of the offer completely without changing the product at all. Most entrepreneurs pick their market based on personal interest or what they know. Hormozi says that is backwards. Pick the market based on pain intensity, purchasing power, and targetability. Getting this right before building the offer saves years of wasted effort. And once you have the right market, Hormozi hands you the most powerful pricing insight in the book. Pricing for power, not survival, here is something that will challenge the way most people think about pricing, and Hormozi dedicates an entire chapter to it because he considers it the psychological core of the framework. Most business owners price their services based on what they think the market will bear, what competitors are charging, or what feels comfortable to ask for. Hormozi says all three of these approaches are financially self-destructive. They anchor your price to the wrong reference point. Hormozi prices based on the value of the outcome delivered, not time or effort invested. This distinction is everything. If you help a business owner generate an additional $200,000 in annual revenue, the value of that outcome is not determined by how many hours you spent. It is determined by how much that outcome is worth to them. Hormozi argues most service providers dramatically undercharge because they price their effort rather than the transformation they create. The psychological consequence of low pricing is sharp and counterintuitive. When you charge too little, you attract the most difficult clients, those who question everything and demand the most time. Price, paradoxically, signals quality. A prospect who sees a premium price thinks this must be serious. A bargain price triggers the opposite suspicion. Raising your price is a positioning decision that completely changes who shows up at your door, but pricing alone is only part of what makes an offer truly undeniable. The value equation, we now arrive at the intellectual engine of the entire book, the framework Hormozi calls the value equation. And understanding it changes how you think about every offer you will ever build. Hormozi breaks perceived value into 4 variables: the dream outcome the customer desires, the likelihood your offer will deliver it, the time delay between purchase and result, and the effort required from the customer. Increase the first 2 and decrease the last 2, and the offer feels almost unreasonably good. Most businesses focus exclusively on the dream outcome. They sell the result. But sophisticated buyers have heard ambitious promises before and been burned. What actually moves them is a combination of a compelling outcome with a credible mechanism for delivering it, a short timeline, and minimal friction on their end. When you can honestly say your offer delivers the result they want, faster than they expected, with less work than they imagined, and with proof that it works, you have constructed something the market will chase rather than compare. This is where most entrepreneurs leave enormous money on the table without realizing it. They have a good product and real results. But their offer communicates none of that structure. It just says, here is what I do, here is the price. Hormozi calls this offer laziness, and it is one of the most expensive habits in business. The value equation is not a tagline exercise, it is architecture. And what Hormozi builds on top of it next is what he calls the Grand Slam offer, the concept that the entire book is building toward. Building the Grand Slam offer. Hormozi says the Grand Slam offer is the point at which your offer becomes so precisely engineered around your customer's fears, desires, and objections that the conversation shifts entirely. The prospect stops asking how much does it cost and starts asking how do I get started. That shift is not magic or charisma, it is architecture. And Hormozi breaks the construction of a Grand Slam offer into a repeatable system that any entrepreneur can deploy in any market. The process begins with what Hormozi calls problem enumeration. You list every problem, fear, hesitation, and objection your ideal customer has before, during, and after buying. You consider what keeps them up at night and what they fear if they invest and it fails. Then you reverse every single one of those problems into a solution and build each solution into the offer itself. The offer does not just promise a result. It systematically removes every reason not to buy. Hormozi illustrates this with his own gym offer that he used to rescue a failing fitness business. Instead of selling a standard membership, he built an offer including personal coaching, nutrition guidance, a money-back guarantee tied to measurable outcomes, and community accountability. None of those additions cost significantly more to deliver. Together, they transformed a commodity into something no competitor offered. The gym went from struggling to fully booked without changing the product at all. The next layer is what makes this scalable. Enhancing value with scarcity and urgency. Hormozi addresses a psychological reality most business owners either ignore or weaponize clumsily, and the chapter on scarcity and urgency is where the book gets tactically precise. Human beings do not respond to availability the same way they respond to scarcity. When something is always available at the same price, the brain deprioritizes the decision. It can be made later. And later, in consumer psychology, almost always means never. Hormozi says scarcity and urgency are not manipulation. They are honest frameworks that help customers make decisions already in their best interest. The distinction Hormozi draws here is critical. Fake scarcity, the countdown timer that resets every visit, or the always available limited spots message, destroys trust the moment the customer notices, and they always notice eventually. Hormozi teaches real scarcity, which means actually limiting availability, actually cohort enrolling clients so that your capacity is genuinely constrained. When scarcity is real, it communicates something powerful. It tells the market that this offer is in demand, that other serious people are choosing this, and that waiting carries an actual cost. Urgency works similarly, but through time rather than quantity. Hormozi recommends genuine deadlines built into offers as real business decisions. A promotional price that actually ends, a bonus that genuinely disappears, an enrollment window that genuinely closes. When these constraints are real, they change the prospect psychology from "I will think about it" to "I need to decide now." That shift is worth more than almost any other variable in the sales process. But even a perfectly constructed urgent offer can fail without the final piece Hormozi considers non-negotiable: risk reversal and guarantees. We now arrive at what Hormozi considers the most under-leveraged tool in any business owner's arsenal, the concept he calls risk reversal. The biggest invisible barrier between a prospect and a purchase is not price, it is fear. Fear of wasting money, fear of the wrong decision, fear of the wrong decision, fear of being sold something that did not work. Hormozi says if you truly believe in your offer, you should absorb that fear rather than leaving it with the customer. Hormozi categorizes guarantees by their strength. The weakest is the satisfaction guarantee, which essentially says if you are unhappy, we will refund you. Stronger is the outcome-based guarantee tied to a specific measurable result. Stronger still is what Hormozi calls the anti-guarantee, where the business takes on so much risk that the customer feels almost foolish not to try. He built his early business on this model, training clients free until they hit a specific fitness result, knowing post-result conversion would be extraordinarily high. Here's the reversal most people never see. A strong guarantee does not cost you more customers and refunds. It costs you fewer customers and hesitation. When you remove the customer's risk, conversion rates climb sharply. And if your product actually delivers what it promises, refund rates remain low. Outcome guarantees routinely increase revenue far beyond what they cost in occasional refunds. The guarantee is not a liability, it is a sales asset. And what Hormozi reveals in the final chapters is how to package everything into an offer that prints revenue consistently. Stacking and presenting the offer. Hormozi saves one of his most tactically precise chapters for the end, and this is the one on offer, stacking and presentation, which transforms a strong offer into something that feels almost irrational to refuse. The concept of stacking involves building your offer in layers, presenting each element individually with its standalone value before revealing the complete package price. You are helping a prospect's brain compute genuine value, rather than comparing your total price to a competitor's. Hormozi walks through the psychology in precise detail. When a prospect hears a single price for a complex offer, their brain immediately searches for a comparable reference point. But when they hear the individual value of each component, core service, bonuses, guarantee, support, their brain builds a cumulative value that often exceeds the asking price by a significant multiple. By the time you reveal the actual price, the prospect has already talked themselves into the value. You are not selling. You are confirming a decision they already made. The presentation sequence matters just as much as the stacking itself. Hormozi leads with the dream outcome, builds the logical case through stacked components, and closes with a guarantee so strong the decision feels risk-free. This mirrors how people actually buy: emotion first, logic second, risk assessment third. Most salespeople lead with features and hope. Hormozi flips the sequence, and the results follow. Key lessons and insights: stop competing on price. The first lesson this book drives home is what Alex Hormozi considers the foundational business error of an entire generation of entrepreneurs: the habit of competing on price. When your offer looks the same as your competitors, you invite comparison on the only remaining variable, which is cost. That comparison eventually destroys your margins and your ability to serve clients well. Hormozi says the escape is not better marketing. It is offer differentiation so complete that comparison becomes impossible. Audit your current offer and ask what makes it genuinely different from every other option your prospect could choose. Not slightly different. Structurally different in a way that serves the customer's desired outcome, in a way no competitor currently does. That gap, honestly identified and filled, is where premium pricing lives. Premium pricing is not greed. It is the financial oxygen that allows you to serve clients at the highest level. Charge what the outcome is worth. The second lesson, and the one with the most immediate financial impact, is that pricing should reflect the value of the outcome delivered rather than the time or effort invested. This is what separates consultants who earn a living from those who build wealth. If your work creates $100,000 in value, charging $5,000 is not humility, it is financial illiteracy. Hormozi spent years undercharging before understanding this, and the revenue difference was not incremental, it was transformational. Stop asking what the market pays for this type of service. Start asking what it costs this specific client if they do not solve this problem. Then, price somewhere in the rational gap between those two numbers. That framing repositions you from vendor to strategic partner. The clients who pay premium prices for premium outcomes are almost always the easiest to work with. Remove every reason not to buy. The third lesson is that a great offer must systematically eliminate every objection and fear standing between the prospect and the decision. Hormozi calls this problem enumeration and solution stacking. Before you build your offer, you list every single reason a perfect prospect might not buy. Then you build a solution to each of those reasons directly into the offer itself. By the time price comes up, there is nothing left to object to. Most business owners treat objections as obstacles they handle verbally during the sales process. Hormozi treats them as design problems to be solved before the conversation begins. That distinction changes everything. When your offer already answers every fear the prospect carries, you are no longer selling against resistance. You are simply confirming a decision that the offer itself has already made easy. That is the difference between a sales call that feels like a battle and one that feels like a natural conversation. Make scarcity and urgency real. The fourth lesson challenges an assumption many ethical entrepreneurs hold, the belief that scarcity and urgency are inherently manipulative. Hormozi argues the opposite. When scarcity and urgency are genuinely real, communicating them clearly is not manipulation. It is honest information that helps the prospect make a decision that is already in their best interest. Manipulation only enters when these constraints are fabricated. Real constraints and deadlines serve both the business and the customer simultaneously. Build genuine scarcity into your business model rather than manufacturing artificial pressure. Limit client intake to what you can actually serve. Create enrollment periods with real dates. Offer bonuses that genuinely expire. When these structures are real, they force the prospect to respect their own timeline rather than deferring indefinitely. Indefinitely deferred decisions are the silent revenue killer in most service businesses, and Hormozi's approach solves this at the structural level. Use guarantees to grow, not just to close. The fifth lesson is what most business owners intellectually understand but emotionally resist, the counterintuitive power of the strong guarantee. Hormozi teaches that a bold outcome-based guarantee is not a cost center, it is a growth mechanism. When you remove the customer's risk, you remove the primary barrier between interest and commitment. Conversion rates rise, revenue grows, and if your offer genuinely delivers what it promises, refund rates stay low enough that the math works overwhelmingly in your favor. The deeper principle underneath the guarantee lesson is one of conviction. Hormozi says that refusing to guarantee your results is admitting you do not fully believe in what you are selling, and if you do not believe in it fully, neither will your customer. The guarantee is a public statement of confidence in your own work. Building that confidence requires genuinely delivering extraordinary outcomes. That standard builds the reputation that generates referrals and compounding revenue without more ad spend. The vault closing, most businesses plateau, not because of effort or talent, but because of the offer they are making. Alex Hormozi wrote this book as a direct transfer of the operational intelligence that took him from financial desperation to building one of the most admired portfolios of his generation. What he handed readers is not motivation. It is architecture, a precise, repeatable system for building offers that generate revenue most people never reach because they never learned this game. Here's your one action for the next 7 days. Take your current offer and run it through the value equation. Write down the dream outcome it delivers, the proof you have, how fast the customer sees results, and how much effort it requires. Then identify the weakest variable and redesign one element to strengthen it. That single exercise done honestly will show you exactly where your revenue ceiling is hiding. This is what the book vault exists to deliver. Not summaries that feel good for an hour, but strategic intelligence that changes how you build and price everything going forward. If this breakdown gave you one insight worth real money, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments below. Every person here decided that average thinking is not enough. You belong here. Now go build something the market cannot ignore.